Welcome back to our viewers on the East Coast and those on the West Coast. Accused murderer George Zimmerman back in court today. It's his last scheduled hearing before the start of trial in just 6 weeks for the shooting death of 17-year-old Trayvon Martin. There are some critical things that could happen today. One, Zimmerman might speak. Two, the future of his controversial Stand Your Ground defense could be in play. Criminal defense attorney and CNN legal analyst Mark NeJame is live in Orlando. Mark, explain what could develop with the Stand Your Ground defense.
Well, I think we're going to find some turns that nobody expected. There's not going to be a Stand Your Ground hearing. We've heard a lot of talk about it. It's had a lot of controversy throughout the country, clearly throughout Florida, for quite a while now. But now we're going to find out that, in fact, Mr. O'Mara, representing Mr. Zimmerman, has canceled that. I think you're going to hear a little bit later that he's going to try to integrate a Stand Your Ground hearing into the actual trial, but not have a separate hearing.
Well, you know, that's interesting. You know, obviously, you're a lawyer, I'm a lawyer, but to the non-lawyers, it should be interesting because that's kind of the whole point of Stand Your Ground, isn't it? That it can forestall any trial. That you have a hearing, if Stand Your Ground applies, then there is no trial. What would be the thinking and the strategy here?
Well, a Stand Your Ground hearing, there's no chance of the defense winning that if Mr. Zimmerman did not take the stand. And I think they simply opined that it was better not to have him take the stand a short time before trial and then have those statements available for cross-examination, in fact, when he goes to trial. I think they're going to be proceeding on a good old-fashioned self-defense case, and they're simply not going to have a separate Stand Your Ground hearing. This case, as the facts have unfolded, really do seem more like a defense will go with a self-defense rather than a Stand Your Ground, which is a burden I think the defense would have a very hard time overcoming.
Really? Because that was the speculation early on, that when he gave that interview, Mr. Zimmerman, right after the event, it seemed like a textbook Stand Your Ground case, which is why there was so much energy directed toward whether or not it was a good law.
Yeah, and things do change, as you well know, during the course of a case. I think you're going to find that the reason they're going to try to integrate it into a trial itself is because, under Stand Your Ground, there is no civil liability if Stand Your Ground is granted by the court. So they're going to try to integrate it into the trial itself, and at the conclusion, have the judge say, yes, I hereby find that Stand Your Ground is applicable. Why is that important? Because it then absolves Mr. Zimmerman of any civil liability. Basically, it gives him immunity from a civil lawsuit, which you know is coming down the line.
So what do you think? Will this trial still have as big of a butterfly effect across the country in terms of the states that have Stand Your Ground law? Or do you think now it'll just become about whether or not the case can be made that he's guilty?
Good question. I think this was going to be the lightning rod case for Stand Your Ground cases, but I think that's going to be washed away somewhat because there's not going to be a separate hearing, and if it's integrated in the trial, you're really going to simply see a trial unfold and play out. And then if the judge allows Stand Your Ground to be integrated into the trial, some references to it, but that's not going to be the focus of the case. The focus of the case will be self-defense.
How tough will it be to pick a jury here?
I think we have a new definition for tough. We've never had a case in the United States where they have not been able to pick a jury. They'll find a jury, but it's going to be difficult. You've got a community where it's a very diverse county in Seminole County, and you're going to find that really everybody knows about it. Everybody has an opinion, and more than an opinion, people are very polarized on this particular with this particular case. So that's what's going to make it more challenging, but they will get a jury. It'll likely take 2 or 3 weeks. I think that's been the general estimate that's been bandied around, and I think that's probably a fair estimate.
All right, Mark, we'll be watching it. I'll be coming to you for counsel. Appreciate it this morning. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Checking the clock.